Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Surefire, and welcome to the video. I hope you guys do enjoy it, and if you do, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you like my content as a whole. Feel free to follow me on social media as well. Links will be in the description below. Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to the video, where today we're going to be talking about the mythology tied to the Egyptian Pantheon. The Egyptian mythology is a collection of myths that come from ancient Egypt, which describe the action of the gods in order to understand the world. The myths used appear in writing and art, including short stories, as well as religious texts like hymns, ritual text, funerary text, and temple decorations. It should be noted that the myths often portrayed are often not complete, and are usually described in fragments. So more often than not, you need to find multiple sources in order to actually complete a whole story. While the place of origin for the mythology is ancient Egypt, it should be known that when it came to the development of it, Egyptologists often make educated guesses about how it was developed, usually saying that maybe it came from the natural surroundings, such as maybe the river of the Nile, or even the rituals that the Egyptians had, such as their funerary rituals. The Egyptians did have a good few number of books that did have very important implications to their culture and religion, and would help give context to their afterlife, such as the Book of the Dead, Amduat, Book of the Gates, and the Book of Caverns. There are plenty of other outside sources as well to help us give a better understanding of the mythology, including De Iode et Osiride by Plutarch, as well as writings from Herodotus and Diodorus Siculus. Like many of the other mythologies that we've covered, the gods and goddesses play an important role in the mythology of the culture, as well as life as a whole. These gods were beings that were worshipped in the ancient Egyptian religion, usually representing natural forces and phenomena. Egyptians often supported and appeased them through offerings and rituals, as so these forces would function according to Ma'at, or the divine order. Other beings that did exist in the cosmos, though, were usually the spirits of the dead that would exist inside the divine realm, and humans, with pharaohs accessing as the bridge of humanity to the divine realm. It should be noted that God's roles were fluid and God's natures could expand to take on new characteristics. As such, they are hard to categorize because of this. It should be noted that God still had limitations to their abilities, and as such could not act outside of their spheres of influence. There are even lesser gods, or even demons, who held even more of a limited sphere of influence and had specialized domains. When trying to categorize gods, the easiest way of doing so is more often looking at the genealogy of gods, as this seems to be a very detailed concept in the mythology. Before talking about the world and how the Egyptians saw it, I would first like to talk about Ma'at. In the Egyptian mythology, there was a concept known as Ma'at, a force that is very important to the culture as a whole and played a very significant role in the lives of ancient Egyptians. It should be noted there was a goddess known as Ma'at, as well as her title being the goddess of truth and justice. Ma'at was a way that Egyptians try to live by, as it allowed their existence to even be, as it gave their deities their abilities to do their tasks, as well as kept out the unforeseen forces of chaos. Ma'at is seen as a concept of truth, balance, order, harmony, law, morality, and justice. Moving on to the world, it should be noted that each aspect of it was represented by a god, which I will name when describing each part. So outside our world existed a formless water of infinite expansion. This was known as the Nu. This was shown by Nu, said to be a physical embodiment of the abyss. Next is the sky, said to arch over the land. This is represented by Nut, goddess of the sky. One thing should be noted that another name for Nu is Nut, but these were different deities, I can assure you of that. Back on track, however, we have the earth and the very land itself, represented by Geb, the god of earth. In between the earth and the sky, we had the being known as Shu, which was the god of wind and air. Finally, we have the sun passing through the sky, represented by Ra, the god of the sun himself. It was said that in the night, Ra would pass through a place known as the Duat, a mysterious region that bordered the formlessness of Nu, only to have it return over the land the next day. The final thing to talk about when it comes to the cosmology would be the afterlife. Before talking about where we go though, let's talk about what happened to us. So upon our death, we would separate into two different beings, the Ka and the Ba. So the Ba is the personality that would make us our own unique individuals. This was often represented as a bird and would usually hover over our dead body before funerary rites and offerings were usually presented. Next is the Ka, the life force of us, said to depart immediately after death has occurred. While the Ka does not return to the body, it does sustain itself through food and drink, presented to the dead as an offering. However, it is not consumed physically, as it was the cow within that was consumed. Now the importance of the Ba and the Ka is that the Ba would bind to the Ka to create the Ak, the living intellect of our being. This only happened once proper funerary rites were completed, as well as followed by constant offering. The Ak can be seen as a ghost or a spirit, as they could interact with the living in either good or harmful ways depending on the circumstances. Now where do we go once we die? Well, when one died, their heart was weighed in comparison to a feather, comparing their actions to Ma'at. in order to determine whether the deceased acted in accordance to it. If one did not pass the test, then their heart would be fed into Almut, the Devourer, and sentenced to exist in a dark abyss. If they did pass, then the Ba and Ka would combine to create the Ak, and they would proceed to the afterlife. The afterlife itself varies, but it can be seen as one of a few things. So its options would include going to the realm of Osiris, said to be a lush and pleasant land in the underworld, or the dead would travel with Ra on his daily journey. Originally it was said only the Pharaohs would have a Ba, and as such only they could become divine, and it was said that they would join Ra on his journey, but later concepts grew as time passed. Okay, so the final thing I wanted to talk about was the hieroglyphics, the writing in ancient Egypt. This was a writing system that consisted of some 1,000 characters, combining logographic, syllabic, and alphabetic elements to create each letter. This writing would eventually evolve into the hieratic and demotic Egyptian scripts, with the demotic script eventually evolving into Meroitic, an alphabetic script used in the Kingdom of Mor in Sudan. Alright everyone, that wraps everything I wanted to talk about, and I hope there was a fair bit that you learned from this, and I really hope that you got something out of this, if nothing else. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Later.